And here we are in Germany. German cities are burning, and it pleases me. The German is being punished, but not yet enough. And what can stop us? The hour of revenge has struck.
In January 1945, long columns of Soviet troops entered East Prussia. Various categories of people were present among the soldiers. Some of them felt a great desire to avenge the crimes committed by the Germans in their native land. There were also open bandits in the columns, eager to take advantage of the chaos of war. But among the soldiers there were also idealistic communists who believed in the principles of their ideology, as well as intellectuals who were appalled by the behavior of some of their comrades. I suggest you listen to the memoirs of Soviet officer Leonid Rabachev, who witnessed many war crimes of the Soviet army in Germany. Before viewing, it is important to clarify that some historians do not consider Leonid Rabachev's memoirs reliable. After 150 kilometers, we stop as the road is closed. We see the retreating civilian population of East Prussia. People were traveling in wagons, vans, cars. Our soldiers push the wagons off the road and start German women. My own platoon, all my soldiers run, and the Germans too. Generals, colonels stand on the road and watch this. My female liaison officers are laughing. I was terrified. I sat in the car and just watched. I didn't want to get out of it. My whole platoon, with the exception of the women, were committing these crimes. It stopped when the road was opened. We drove on, and night was falling. The army commander ordered my platoon to occupy the houses that were located along the highway we were advancing on. In the morning, I wake up, go outside, and for the first time in my life, I see a tiled roof. At that moment, 2 German girls come up to me and tell me that they have lost their brother and mother. The girls were no more than 16 years old. I realized that the soldiers might catch them now and gesture that they should run away from here. They understood me and ran away. I went back into the building and started my work. Suddenly, I heard shouting outside. I went to the window and saw a major standing outside. He was a bad man. He was bullying me. The man had no honor. He lined up all his soldiers in 2 rows and ordered to undress the captured girls. I looked at the crimes being committed and was horrified. There is no need to think that chaos reigned in the Soviet army of that time. Studies of archival documents of military tribunals show that the crimes committed by the Soviet army against civilians were exceptional cases rather than mass crimes. Keeping track of each individual soldier in a huge multi-million-strong army was extremely difficult. The military authorities continued to apply severe punishments, and many soldiers were shot for their crimes. In January 1945, with the entry of the Red Army into German territory in East Prussia and Silesia, serious measures were taken by the Soviet command to prevent mass crimes against civilians. On January 19, 1945, Joseph Stalin signed an order to prevent rude treatment of the local population, which was communicated to all soldiers. According to the order, looters and rapists were allowed to be executed at the scene of the crime. According to the military prosecutor's office, in the first months of 1945, more than 4,000 officers and a large number of ordinary soldiers were convicted by military tribunals for crimes committed against the local population. Several show trials resulted in death sentences. The memoirs of Dora Nass, a German girl born in Berlin, show that not all Soviet soldiers were criminals.
Until April 1945, Germans could not have imagined that the war would reach their native Berlin. The thought seemed incredible to everyone. During those terrible days, weapons were lying in the streets of the city, and it gave the impression of a nightmare. At the end of April 1945, I went down to a shelter in the Berlin subway. Like many other Germans, I reflected that the Wehrmacht was gathering reinforcements and would soon liberate the capital. On May 3rd, the fighting in the city quieted down, and my mother and I decided to leave the shelter and go to our house. However, it was only rubble in its place. Suddenly, we noticed a wagon with Russian soldiers. My heart sank with fear when one of the soldiers jumped off the wagon and approached me, and then I heard his voice saying words in German. It turned out his name was Boris, and he was trying to calm me and my mom down. He showed us a picture of his family. Boris and his comrades and I settled in the empty house left nearby. They hung a makeshift sign that read "Occupied by Tankers" on the front of the house. We spent time together until May 9th. Those were wonderful days. At no time did the Soviet soldiers show any harassment or hints of romance. There was only pleasant and friendly communication between us. And on May 9th, Boris and his comrades, who had lost their equipment in the battles for Berlin, left by wagon to an unknown destination. Since then, I have not seen them again.
American troops in the last phase of World War II were also exposed to crimes of desertion, abuse of the local population, and assaults on women. 32 men were tried for rape in January and February 1945, 128 in March, and 259 American soldiers in April. During the period of combat operations in Europe, 70 American servicemen were sentenced to capital punishment, only one of them for desertion. There were indeed crimes committed by Red Army soldiers against German women. However, it is difficult to name the exact number of such crimes. Unlike Hitler's actions in the occupied territories of the USSR, where Wehrmacht soldiers were not seriously punished for atrocities against the local population, the command of the Red Army suppressed acts of violence against the German civilian population. Another important point. In Germany, unlike in the USSR, cohabitation with a soldier of the occupation army was not absolutely taboo from the point of view of moral norms. In the memoirs of war veterans, there are mentions of cases when German women came to the command of Soviet units with a proposal to organize brothels for the soldiers of the Red Army, promising to select local personnel for these purposes. Proposals of this kind were, of course, rejected. A number of researchers claim that several 100,000 children were born in post-war Germany, fathered by Soviet, American, and British soldiers and officers. However, not all women were victims of rape. Most women cohabitated with the military voluntarily. It is difficult to discuss such complex topics, but one can only imagine what women from all over the world went through during World War II. If you were interested, please like and subscribe to my channel to help spread this video.